Good to have you along here on this Thursday. It's draft day. We finally made it. Here to the first round of the NFL draft, Ben, and the Jaguars will be on the clock here in a handful of hours as well. We'll chat with Charlie Campbell, Walter Football coming up here on the show. He has been, of all the NFL media, the most accurate draft prognosticator 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2020. So we'll get some inside scoop from him coming up here in just a little bit. Also, Brooks Austin will join us. Dogs Daily on SI. We'll look at some of the Georgia Bulldogs that could potentially be drafted here early on in the draft. We'll also get his breakdown film-wise, his eval, because he does that for Georgia players, but we'll ask him to do it for Kyle Pitts, Justin Fields, a couple of guys who could wind up wearing a Falcons uniform, depending on what mock draft you believe. As well. And also Sean Quinn, Savannah State head football coach, will join us. I want to talk to him about the draft. Also, kind of an interesting thoughts with Sean Quinn is, obviously Urban Meyer was excellent at recruiting. But what would he do, Sean Quinn being, if you go from recruiting to now you're picking and you're drafting and you all of a sudden, it's not just that guy's really awesome, I'd love to have him. It's what did you get him at the right value spot in the draft? Because if not, we're just either going to try to get him later or we're not going to get him. And so how do you manage those waters? I think it'll be an interesting conversation with Sean Quinn. And Ben will give our top 10 the way we see it playing out in the draft coming up in the final hour of the show as well. But it is draft day. We're excited to be there. And the worst kept secret will officially be announced coming up just after 8 o'clock. And again, what's going to happen, but the Jags are going to make us go through the proverbial 10 minutes of nonsense so Roger Goodell can get all the ads in. ESPN, ABC, NFL Network can do all their prognosticating to say, hey, Trevor Lawrence is the first pick. We already know that. Don't make us wait. Just make the pick.
No, they've already told Urban Meyer, Kevin, listen, I know you want to go ahead and make the pick. I know that he's already donating money to Jacksonville charities and saying, I hope to be a Jacksonville Jaguar and all these different things. I've never understood that. It's like Roger Goodell got to walk up and say, welcome to the 2021 NFL draft. No, the pick is in. Let's just go straight to Zach. Forget that. The pick is in for two teams. We know that the Jets are going to go Zach Wilson. Let's go to number 3 because, Kevin, you already know this is going to be the longest first round in NFL history because of the current draft. It's almost like, here you go, anything to say, and we'll be right back. We'll step away.
Last year's draft actually went pretty quick. That's because nobody was up there, bro hugging the commissioner. Roger Goodell was sitting in his lounge chair at his house with a bowl of M&Ms or whatever it was next to him, and dudes are hopping on Skype calls. So it went pretty quick, but you're right. I think because of the intrigue of quarterbacks, and I think as we've talked about all week, more importantly, what happens after the quarterbacks stop, whether it be after the 3rd pick, whether it be after the 4th pick, then it becomes like a whole new draft at that point, because if it's the Falcons, if it's the Bengals, they're at 5, you essentially have the first pick in the draft, not named quarterback. So to me, that's where it gets very interesting. But let's start there at the top quickly before we get to Charlie Campbell of Walter Football. Trevor Lawrence, it's going to be official tonight. Jacksonville Jaguar. I'm sure tomorrow the contract will be signed because they've pretty much already had this thing all worked out. Are they getting not just the franchise quarterback, because that's what you hope you're getting at the very least? Are they getting a franchise changer at quarterback?
Absolutely, because the whole thing about it is, Kevin, am I saying he's going to be able to do it by himself? No. But am I saying because of his star power, because Urban Meyer going to give him every single thing he think he needs to be successful? I say yes, he is a franchise changer. Number one, he's a box office. I mean, Jacksonville are going to get Monday night football games, not Thursday night football games. And you talking about the division that, if you can find a way to beat Carson Wentz and the Colts, find a way to tackle Derrick Henry, and then you start talking about the fact that you don't know what's going on in Houston. They can be really, really good, really, really quickly. So for me, yes, he is a franchise changer because he box office check, perception check. Now he got to start winning some games. He's definitely going to be the opening day starter. There's 0% chance that anybody not named Trevor Lawrence will be taking the first snap from center opening day. So yes, he is a franchise changer because at least when you put him on a billboard, the whole city knows who he is. It's not like it's a guy. Me and BJ went to a game a couple of years ago. They had Jalen Ramsey, Unique Ndakwe, and I'm like, who in the world is out on these billboards? And Unika Doc was standing next to me like, I don't know. I'm like, ain't that you? Yeah, but don't nobody know. So I just think that at the end of the day, yes, Kevin, when you think of box office in a small media market, but got a chance to make some noise, I think he is a franchise changer. Yes.
And again, when you talk about the franchise changers, I think you think of the guys like the Peyton Mannings. You go to the Colts, they stink, and then become an all-decade type franchise. Drew Brees going to the Saints. I know he wasn't drafted there, but that was kind of a franchise changer there for the Saints in a lot of ways. So I think that's what we're talking about with Trevor Lawrence coming in. Certainly the expectations, the hype, and more is going to be, through the roof and then some for Trevor Lawrence to come in and have the Jags winning. I mean, who was it we talked to earlier this week that they thought that with Trevor Lawrence, the Jags, I mean, he said 7-10, 8-9.
Wow.
I mean, I wish I felt that optimistic coming in, but I mean, that is what you're talking about when you say Trevor Lawrence.
No, I agree. And that's the thing too, Kevin. These guys don't succeed because of us. We set such ridiculous expectations for these young men. I mean, the barometer at the first overall pick, if you're a franchise changer, Peyton Manning. What? Yeah, 14 years, 5 regular season MVPs, 2 Super Bowl appearances, win 1, lose 1. That's the standard? Yes. Outside of the fact that both of your starting receivers are going to be Hall of Famers, you're going to have a Hall of Fame tight end. You just need a Hall of Fame running back and a great coach. Well, we'll see. But Trevor Lawrence, he's built for this moment since he was 14 years old. Only problem is he thought he would go over to a team not named Jacksonville. We will see if he's ready for the bright lights.
Certainly. We'll get into what Atlanta should do at number 4. A lot of options. You look at mock drafts. A bunch say Kyle Pitts. A bunch say maybe it's Justin Fields. Others say it's Trey Lance. Who knows what the Falcons are going to do? We'll get to our thoughts on that and more, but we got to step aside because when we come back, we'll chat with Charlie Campbell. Most accurate in the draft, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 20. Led all the NFL media in correct picks in the draft for 2017 and the 2019 drafts. So we'll ask him what in the world is going on after those first couple of picks and more when we come back. Charlie Campbell, Walter Football will join us right here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And we're glad to have you along today on this Thursday. Good to have you along here, 3 and Out on this Thursday draft day. First round coming up later tonight. And joining us here on the program from Walter Football, he led all NFL media in draft room accuracy in 15, 16, 17, 18, and 20. Led all NFL media in correct picks for the draft in 2017 and 2019. Charlie Campbell joins us here on 3 and Out. Charlie, welcome to the show. How are you? Hey, we're doing fantastic. I guess, can we all be draft experts if we all say Trevor Lawrence is going number 1 tonight? Yeah. So where do we go after the first couple of picks? Does the draft start with San Francisco, or do you feel it kind of turns and starts with the Falcons at 4?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think it really starts at 4 because you know that there'll be quarterbacks taken with the first 3 picks. So then at 4 is where there's a potential division in terms of, well, it could go quarterback, it could go Florida tight end Kyle Pitts, or it could go trade with another team moving into the 4th spot. So that's where really they're kind of the options open up, is at that 4th pick. The top 3, it's all quarterbacks, and with San Francisco, it's just a mystery as to which one, but you know it'll be that position.
And obviously, I mean, when you talk about the draft really getting started at the 4th overall pick, I mean, we talk about a guy like Terry Fontenot. I mean, obviously he's going to get, a lot of praise if he goes and gets a quarterback, but how intriguing is it going to be for him to go out there and get the tight end out of Florida, Kyle Pitts?
Well, it's a tough decision in terms of the future of the franchise, because you may not be picking in a great spot to land a future successor to Matt Ryan. It's very, feasible that over the next few years, the Falcons win enough with Ryan that they wouldn't be picking high enough to land a top quarterback prospect. So you have to consider that. And at the same time, Kyle Pitts is a generational talent, a freak athlete, a guy that's just an amazing mismatch weapon for the passing-driven NFL. And he could really help rejuvenate Matt Ryan in these later years of his career. And we've seen Drew Brees and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers having their teams, winning championships or competing for them late into their 30s and beyond, in Brady and Brees' case. So there's no necessarily reason why Matt Ryan can't do the same. So with that, I think most likely Atlanta takes Pitts and has Ryan there signed for 2 more years, and then they can make a decision as to whether they're going to keep on going with him or look for the replacement.
We're talking with Charlie Campbell, WalterFootball.com, and Kyle Pitts, I think, would be a great pick there for Atlanta. When you look at it, a lot of folks have talked about depth of the draft. Where is the one position where if you miss on a guy who gets picked ahead of you, it's fine because there's another guy probably just as good still available later in the first round?
Well, wide receiver is really excellent depth into day 2 and mid rounds. Offensive tackle, there will be a lot of quality offensive tackles that go in the 2nd round, late in the 1st round. So those positions have really good depth this year and rare depth. So really, those positions are the strength of the draft. There's a few others that have some decent depth. Cornerback, late in the 1st, early in the 2nd, has a cluster of players that all are worthy of going in that range. And then there's some running back depth on day 2 as well. So there's a few positions of strength beyond the obvious, really tough, strong ones of wide receiver and offensive tackle.
And Charlie, with the NFL being so offensive driven, how many of the top 32 picks you think gonna end up being offensive guys? I know you got some big time talented defensive players, but it's so offensive driven. Could we see upwards to 20 something guys potentially, coming off the board from offense?
Yeah, I think that's very feasible that you could have an offensively dominated first round, and every draft class is different. So this one, it just happens to be stronger on offense. We've had some drafts in recent years that were better on the defensive side. But this year with the defensive line, typically that's just such a key position in the league that those guys go early and quickly. But this is not a great year on the defensive line. There might be only 2 edge rushers that go in the first round, maybe 1 defensive tackle, so it's very abnormally thin on the defensive front. So that just pushes more offensive guys who graded out higher overall up on teams' boards. So I think it's going to lead to more offense here on the opening night of the draft.
Charlie Campbell, WalterFootball.com. Now, obviously, first round, you're expecting guys to come in and play. Who, in your estimation, is the biggest boom or bust prospect that we could see drafted tonight?
Well, that's a good question. I think Caleb Farley, the cornerback from Virginia Tech, has big boom bust potential. He's a really good cover corner, big, fast, athletic. The 2019 season of tape was really impressive. So he definitely has boom potential. He would be the top defensive player in this draft probably if it weren't for the injuries, and that's why the bust factor is there. He's just had a really difficult time staying healthy, has had multiple back surgeries, had a serious knee injury. So he's very much so a boom or bust because he has great potential, but if he can't stay healthy, he won't last long in the NFL. So that player in the 20s, for example, could be an absolute steal for someone to get a cornerback with top 10 talent. And if he stays healthy, well, then you just got a great value. But the risk is he just doesn't have the body to hold up in the NFL.
Obviously, when you talk about the third pick in the draft with the 49ers, definitely getting a quarterback. Mac Jones seems to be the guy who's only played 17 games in college, but Trey Lance is a guy who Kyle Shanahan has came out and said he really likes. He's only played 17 games. You talk about that boom or bust factor. Obviously, Mac Jones gonna get more of a, he gonna get more of the benefit of the doubt because he played at Alabama. But both guys not similar in talent, but definitely similar in a skill set. Who you think are going to have the chance to have a better career out of 2 guys who've only had 1 year of production?
That's a great question. I mean, so much of how these guys pan out, is out of their control because we've seen good players get ruined by teams and, vice versa. So, I think that it's really going to depend a lot on how well things are developed around them. And that goes as well for Trevor Lawrence and, Zach Wilson as well. I mean, no one would have anticipated that Andrew Luck would have retired early because he had a horrible offensive line for most of his career that led to him taking a beating and just being done with football. So that can happen to any guy really these days. So, but of those 2, I personally think Trey Lance has the better skill set, more upside. Teams rave about his character. They say he's really smart, did really well in the Zoom meetings from a football IQ perspective. So if I had to bet on Lance or Jones having the better NFL career, I would bet on Lance. I think Jones might be a little safer. There might be a little more risk with Lance coming from that level of competition and being a one-year wonder. But he definitely has more upside in the skill set than Jones does.
Charlie Campbell, Walter Football, joining us here on 3 and Out. Now, Charlie, obviously we talked about your accuracy in predicting the draft. Is there a team, though, that you're like, come on, man, don't do it to me? Like, the old Al Davis Raiders where it was like, oh, you got to do this. And then the pick comes in and it's somebody that nobody was even thinking about. How do you kind of avoid some of that where you're like, oh, now it's down to Team X. They're going to mess this whole thing up.
That's my, drives me crazy every year. The night before the draft and the days before the draft when I'm doing my final mocks because one team can set off a domino effect that just ruins it all. So that really gives me a lot of stress that I'm pondering over in my head constantly. And that team often can be the Patriots. They can always do something just completely out of the norm. So this year they're kind of sitting right in the middle of the first round, which makes them even tougher because they're in a spot where you could move up, you could move down, you could take a real shocking player at that position. They could go for a quarterback. I mean, there's so many possibilities. So that's really I find the toughest team to project year in and year out is New England.
So, Charlie, I mean, when it's all said and done, what is the best remedy when it comes to drafting players? Do you draft for need, or do you draft the best player available?
Well, it really comes to where the two meet, in my opinion, because it's a team sport and you have to build a team. So, for example, there's just certain positions if you've really invested in, you can't go back to that well if you've already, devoted a few first round picks at that spot, and you can't neglect the other positions on your team. So I think, for example, a team might go into the draft with, say, 2 or 3 needs on the roster, and then you just see who's the best player that is available at one of those spots. Like, well, let's use the Raiders, for example, picking at 17. They need defensive line help, they need linebacker help, and they badly need a right tackle. So when it gets to 17 tonight, I think they look at those positions, they say who's the best player at one of those positions, and they go with that. And then that helps to build the team overall. But obviously, if, say, quarterback is the highest rated player on their board, but Derek Carr is signed cheap and he's played well overall, and they average 30 points a game with him as their quarterback, it doesn't make sense to take a guy that's just going to sit behind him unless you just want to do a complete rebuild. But I know that's not the case. So you really have to consider the state of your roster and try and get the best player that can help you in terms of building the overall team.
Charlie Campbell, Walter Football, our guest here on 3 and Out. We encourage you to go to Walter Football. All the pre-draft prognostications, the mock draft is up there as well. Charlie, really appreciate the time and enjoy draft evening.
Thank you. You guys enjoy it. Should be a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Great talking with you again.
Yes, thanks so much. Charlie Campbell joining us here on 3 and Out from Walter Football. Does a great job. Very accurate. I believe he has the Falcons taking the tight end there. And I looked at, he kind of has on his site a conglomeration of all the mock drafts. And I know we talked to D Orlando and a couple of guys around the Falcons who said, look, it's going to be quarterback, but a lot of other mock drafts really think it's going to be Kyle Pitts out there for the pick tonight. So Atlanta, to me, very interesting. Obviously, I think San Francisco could change things somewhat based on the quarterback they take. But to me, still, the Falcons start the draft because you have the top non-quarterback pick if you want it. If you go quarterback, then that falls to the Bengals in the draft. And to me, that could be a very valuable pick here. I know people will kind of not show their cards, but in the last couple of minutes, you're on the clock. We got that, Christian. We'll get to that coming up in the next segment when we come back. So we'll come back. Some breaking news out of the National Football League. Ben, you're going to want to hear this because speaking of changing the draft, this could do it. We'll get to that when we come back. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is draft day, so let all the good stuff fly out all over the place, Ben. And while we were talking with Charlie Campbell, Adam Schefter, just blowing up Twitter. I mean, we have Woj bombs in the NBA. I mean, a Shefty bomb just dropped a couple of hours ahead of the draft getting started, and that is, according to Adam Schefter, Aaron Rodgers has told he is frustrated to no end with the Packers organization and has told folks in the organization he doesn't want to come back.
I mean, the whole thing.
That's all I know how to say. It's like you're on draft day and you have an MVP quarterback saying, yeah, I'd really rather not play for the Packers anymore.
So Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Packers, now realizing just how pivotal a franchise quarterback is. Because when y'all, now this is me, I'm going to be honest. When y'all said breaking news, I'm thinking, because this is other news. I don't know if we're going to bring, I don't want to spill the beans. Urban Meyer, Tim Tebow, he worked out for the Jaguars. Now
this is big.
He plays tight end. Think Taysom Hill. All I'm saying is, Kevin, think about this. This is why I do radio. Because if you're Matt LaFleur is getting ready for the draft. Looks down at his phone and go, Aaron Rodgers is this. You know what, dude? You know what, Aaron? You're already hosting Jeopardy. Now you don't want to be the head coach. I mean, I'm telling you, Kevin.
Ben, but Ben, seriously, whether the level of dissatisfaction is there with Aaron Rodgers or not, you have obviously Adam Schefter putting it out there that apparently he's told people in the organization he does not want to come back. I would imagine within 12 seconds of that tweet hitting, Green Bay's phone just started going berserk. I mean, think about it. If you're a team that's like, hey, you want my number one pick? Give me Aaron Rodgers and I'll give you some other. I'm like, why wouldn't you? I mean, I'm not saying like Jacksonville shouldn't do that. I mean, if you're the Jets.
Wow.
Well, man, I mean, I'm saying, but like if you're Kyle Shanahan or somebody who's like, okay, I could pick quarterback. Or I could call Green Bay and say, do you want the number 3 pick? And you just give me your quarterback? I'm like,
I mean, with Aaron Rodgers on the market, I could think of maybe 5 or 6 teams that won't pick up. Right? That's not going to answer the phone. That's Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Let me tell y'all something. Aaron Rodgers is on the market, right? Aaron Rodgers.
You think? I mean, obviously, if he says he doesn't want to be there, that would.
And obviously, Dallas won't get him because of what I know. A team in Houston need a quarterback. I know a team in Detroit need a quarterback. I know a team. It's a lot of teams right now, Kevin, that can utilize what Aaron Rodgers does. Aaron Rodgers can make any team incredibly better. And I think what's happening is Aaron Rodgers said, look, new coach, same result. Y'all don't want to give me nothing on offense. Y'all expect me to just go out there and be Mr. Wonderful for this team. Yet when we don't win in the most pivotal game possible, you take the ball out of my hand to kick a field goal. Like you remember that kind of stuff. So Kevin, like I said, we still got some hours before the draft kick off, and the breaking news is already Aaron Rodgers. That makes everybody who needs a quarterback open, to have him on that squad, because like you talk about Urban Meyer, just saying, I know Trevor already probably got a house in Jacksonville.
But Ben, this is why if I'm Jacksonville, I wouldn't do that, because look, would it be worth it to trade away a lot of stuff to get Aaron Rodgers and not have the pieces and get him for 3 or 4 years, or get Trevor Lawrence for potentially a decade, and you still get all those draft picks to kind of help him out? I think that'd be interesting, but I wouldn't do that if I was Jacksonville. But a team like San Francisco?
I mean, on this thing too. No, just imagine this. San Francisco, that's a team. What's that team that ain't got a name? The Washington football team. They could use Aaron Rodgers because that division stinks. He will make that team very good. But Kevin, I can appreciate this though. Look at what Aaron Rodgers did. Y'all, I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna say anything to anybody. I'm gonna wait till the day of the draft, hours away, and I'm gonna do breaking news. You know why? Because y'all don't. This is how y'all do me. I watch the draft, and they'll say with the first pick, the Green Bay Packers will get a linebacker. What?
No, last year they got Jordan Love.
Exactly. So Jordan Love. Listen, I mean, you want to be the guy, right? It's how you become the guy. So now Brett Favre got replaced by Aaron Rodgers. Well, that's the two greatest, even though you got the Bart Stars of the way, you got some great players, but that's the two greatest. Mr. Love, you are up, I guess. But yeah, I appreciate Aaron Rodgers saying, look, man, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to make waves any more than I'm gonna, because it's better that I tell you now than to have me disgruntled hurting the team. But Kevin, I'm telling you, Terry Fontenot, listen to me, you ain't got no money. But if Aaron Rodgers is available, I'm just saying, I love Matty Ice. But if you gotta go, I can switch him for number 12. Just saying.
A straight up Aaron Rodgers for Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matty Ice got one regular season MVP, and Aaron Rodgers got 2. Aaron Rodgers got the Super Bowl though.
And again, Ben, that we kind of joke about it, but depending on the seriousness of that, right? I mean, if you're Green Bay, this throws your draft in a little bit of upheaval. It's like, because Aaron Rodgers is in a unique position, right? But he's one of those guys that he doesn't need football. He's got the championship. He's got the MVP. He can go host Jeopardy, right? I mean, he can walk away and go do something else. And I'm sure as a former MVP quarterback, if he says, I'm not playing, I'm sure there's 100 networks that would love to say, Aaron, why don't you come be an analyst on Sundays? He doesn't need football. But how does that change their draft, knowing like, okay, this wasn't necessarily a thought, but do we need to listen to phone calls about trading him at this point if he's that mad and it's, irrevocable? Like, should this be a strategy where we don't just say, yeah, look, it's fine, we're going to go and just do the draft? No, I don't think you could do. I mean, this is going to be interesting from Green Bay's standpoint, and like I said, whether it's 100% he wants out or not, I imagine they are getting phone calls going, hey, so about Aaron saying he doesn't want to be there. You want to get something for nothing. You don't want to get nothing, right? Like, we'll offer you a first-round pick and some other stuff if you'll just send him our way. I think that could change the dynamic of the draft if this is something that the Packers feel is not going to get solved.
I don't think it is. I mean, Kevin, the one thing about it is the only players or position in football that has leverage is the quarterbacks. No other position has leverage. It worked for Dak Prescott. People thought he weren't going to get his money right. He got his money, right? Carson Wentz said, I wasn't going to play for the Cincinnati Bengals anymore, walked away from football. They brought him back and traded him to the Raiders. I'm just saying, nothing swings, the pendulum more than the quarterback position. And Aaron Rodgers is one of the faces. Kevin, you're talking about MVP. He's the reigning MVP. I mean, he's coming off an MVP season last year, but it's all about when the last time we saw Aaron Rodgers. Last time we saw Aaron Rodgers, he was on the sideline because they was kicking. They were trying to, kick the field goal. Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur don't see eye to eye. Aaron Rodgers don't think that they take his career serious because outside of Devontae Adams, who else do we got to throw the football to? And I think at a certain point, he's earned his respect. Matt LaFleur has not earned anything. So he's saying, if I got 3 or 4 quality years left in me, I want to spend them away from Green Bay. I'm letting you know right now, it's not going to be salvageable. Don't call my phone. And like you said, Kevin, he don't need football. I mean, and the thing is, him doing Jeopardy showing you his versatility. Like, I can walk away from football and not go in the analyst booth. I can go do one of the most famous shows ever. That's my versatility. So, but I want to play football right now. I just don't want to do it in Green Bay. There are going to be a lot of teams calling his phone. And like I said, outside of Tampa Bay, outside of, Dallas, maybe, in Kansas City, Baltimore, you should be nervous if you play quarterback and you haven't won a regular season MVP, you haven't won a Super Bowl MVP, haven't been to a Super Bowl, and you ain't Aaron Rodgers, which is most guys. He's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, even at his age. So, yeah, Kevin, this not only changes the draft dynamic for the Packers, this changes everybody's draft dynamic when you look at how big of an impact he could be, because people are like, well, listen, what about Aaron Rodgers? What you mean? He don't want to be in Green Bay. What? Aaron Rodgers. So we'll see what happens, Kevin. But listen, Adam Schefter, he probably got 4 phones today. He gonna have a phone strictly for Aaron Rodgers all night long. But I love it. I love every minute of it.
Sure. And again, you talk about all the teams that need quarterback, and now you have one who has said, I don't want to be on my team. Now again, Aaron Rodgers in a situation where he could just say, fine, I don't want to play, period. But I get the sense, as you said, Ben, coming off an MVP season, it's probably more to do with the organization and the way they've been running things as opposed to I want to go host Jeopardy or something along those lines, right? I mean, I just look at it and say, look, last year I still have plenty of years left, and you draft a quarterback to come in and not play when everybody knows we need pieces to help us. We need certain players to come in and help us win now. I mean, Aaron Rodgers will help you win in spite of some of that, but hey, it sure would be a heck of a lot easier if we aren't drafting guys that we don't need, much less a quarterback who isn't going to play as long as I'm standing here. So, wow. I mean, this to me, who's bold enough to make that phone call and say, you know what? We thought we were going to get Mac Jones and Trey Lance maybe, or we thought we were in a position to get Justin Fields, but if I can scratch all that and not have to develop and get an MVP type quarterback, maybe I make that phone call. And wow, just the breaking news of all breaking news there from Adam Schefter, just a few hours ahead of the first pick being made.
I mean, look at what Bruce Arians did. Bruce Arians went out there and said, "Look, I want Tom Brady." What they Tom Brady gonna do? Super Bowl. I'm looking at the track record, and the whole thing about it is when you talk about a guy like Aaron Rodgers, the problem is Aaron Rodgers, when he went to the Super Bowl, he had Jordy Nelson, he had Greg Jennings, he had Donald Driver and those guys, right? And people say, but you know what he had on defense? Charles Woodson. He won the defensive player of the year. He's a Hall of Famer. Ain't no Charles Woodson's over there now. I like Xavier Alexander and all those type guys, but Kevin, it's like any business. Kevin, if you are the top earner at your business, yet you don't get a raise, you get a party and they clap for you. You get a cake. Well, that was cool when you just got there. But now, you're in year 16. Hey, Kevin, man, we got you a double-decker. I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm not dealing with this anymore because, yes, I'm good enough to get us there, but I need players around us to get us over the hump. They don't seem to be wanting to add no players outside of Devontae Adams, and you're going to need more than that.
Well, I mean, according to a lot of reports, and again, this is breaking news within the last 15 minutes coming out from Adam Schefter, the Packers did offer Aaron Rodgers an extension, but obviously that didn't get signed, at least at this point. And a lot of people are saying, if you're the Packers, do you just wait him out, Aaron Rodgers, and say, okay, we're just going to go ahead and do our draft? I mean, this is going to be very, very – we got a caller on the line. Ben, let's go to Ray. Ray, welcome to 3 and Out. Welcome.
Hey, guys. Always enjoy y'all's show.
Hey, we appreciate it.
Just wanted to make a quick couple of comments on the Aaron Rodgers situation. I think that this has never, ever, ever been about money. I look at Mike LaFleur, and isn't he one of those guys that was under Kyle Shanahan? Does he come from that tree?
He does. He did come from that tree, yes.
Okay, now, here's Kyle Shanahan. And this is why I say you pay attention to what the 49ers do in the draft. Kyle is a control freak. He is a genius, but geniuses are control freaks. Mike LaFleur comes from his branch of coaching. I think Green Bay was trying to let Mike LaFleur do his thing. And you got 2 strikes with Aaron Rodgers, and this is a 2-strike game. There is no 3 strikes. 1, you drafted another quarterback. And 2, you're letting Mike LaFleur run his team and his offense the way he wants to run it, and Aaron does not like that. Aaron feels like, I got a Super Bowl under my belt. The guy I won it with isn't here anymore, but I'm still here. I am that guy in this organization, or I'm not with this organization. So you take that and you say, well, where can Aaron Rodgers go? Everybody's in danger. That's not a top 4 or 5 quarterback. I absolutely agree, except for one thing. Aaron Rodgers is not going anywhere that he doesn't get to run the show. So I think the 49ers are out because Kyle Shanahan runs it the way Kyle does. And if you don't believe that, ask Matt Ryan, who was an MVP under him because he ran Kyle Shanahan's office once he learned it. He was not an MVP after that, and Arthur Smith is the only way he's going to be an MVP type, going forward. And that's not a knock against Matt Ryan. But Matt Ryan had to learn Kyle's offense. Kyle is not going to bump heads with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron is going to go where he can run things, and they got a good setup, period.
Hey, Ray, appreciate the phone call. We are up against it, but a lot of interesting stuff with Aaron Rodgers as it breaks about 10 minutes ago. We'll come back with more 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out on this Thursday, draft day. Good to have you along here all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Brooks Austin will join us next hour. We'll also get our top 10s mocked out in the final hour, our final go as we head into tonight's draft. Although, given the Aaron Rodgers news, we should probably tear that up and potentially start over. But we shall see. John Quinn will also join us in the final hour. Christian, what you
got? So obviously we go to the natural place on draft day. La Liga Soccer, Kevin. Barcelona was taking on Granada today, and things got a little weird at the end as Granada came away with a 2-1 win. But on BN Sports today, the great Ray Hudson was on the call. For soccer fans out there, he's legendary, and I want him to call a college football game. But here was his call of the final goal of the game that handed Barcelona a 2-1 loss.
Credit to Piqué, tried to drag that one behind his back with his heel. Instead, it's inside and an open header. Jorge Molina's done it again.
Molina magic with this header. Again, the defense of Barcelona goes missing like the kids in the Blair Witch Project.
I don't even know what that means.
If you've ever seen the Blair Witch Project,
yeah, I saw Blair Witch Project.
You better face the corner.
It was a lot of build up for a lot of letdown.
Hey, they went missing like the kids in the Blair Witch Project. To every person, that really, I don't. Let me just say this. I don't know, Kevin. I don't know if the Blair Witch Project was real or not. I don't know.
It's real.
Okay, well, since it is, he just offended everybody. Like, thanks a lot.
Can we get the end of that again? just the end, just the Blair Witch Project part, because I mean that is just unbelievable. Like, I want a DB in coverage, and they hit him with this.
He just disappeared like children.
Yeah,
in the Blair Witch Project.
The defense of Barcelona goes missing like the kids in the Blair Witch Project.
Did they go missing? They had it all on videotape. I mean,
but they found it's lost footage, Kevin, which means the people who filmed it can't be found, which would mean, yeah, they went missing. Why are you trying to poo-poo this? Because it's soccer?
I like it. No. They need to show us the video of his co-host that's sitting there next to him. Like, dude, what are you?
Oh no, this is like you're used to it by this point. I think he once compared trying to stop Lionel Messi to trying to nail Jello to a ceiling. Like, this guy's amazing.
Hey, look, you gotta have. It's all about the sound bites. I don't do, the color. That's Kevin. That's Christian. That's Kevin. That's what it is. Kevin, like, listen, we do the same thing, and
Kevin's play-by-play. Kevin's a straight man.
I'm just saying. I've heard you and Kevin, which
they disappeared like the kids in the Blair Witch Project.
No,
basically, Kevin is saying he wouldn't have said that. Okay.
No, Ben, if that had been like XFL football and a DB had gotten burned and it was like, oh, the defense disappeared like a kid in the Blair Witch Project, Trevor would be like, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. But because it's soccer, he hates it.
That's probably an accurate statement. We'll come back. We'll take three right around the corner. Also, Brooks Austin next hour, as well as we catch down towards the draft tonight. Braves and Cubs tonight as well. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back. Hour 2, 3 and out. Busy draft day, and we're not even close to the first pick just yet. With Jacksonville on the clock, you've got Aaron Rodgers unhappy in Green Bay. Potentially, could we have a trade? Apparently, the 49ers reached out yesterday about trading for Aaron Rodgers, and they couldn't come to agreement, and they're like, no, we're not trading Aaron Rodgers. Well, now he's publicly out saying, well, I don't know if I want to – I'm not coming back to Green Bay. Maybe that changes things, and if so, that could change the dynamic of the draft in a big, big way. We'll continue to talk about that later on the show. Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI.com will join us. We'll talk draft with him as well here in hour number 2. But first, let's take 3 here on 3 and Out.
All right, Kevin. Since you hate soccer, we're going to go to your next favorite sport, Olympic weightlifting.
I think I'd rather watch that.
Georgian Olympic weightlifter. No, this guy isn't from like Noonan. Is from the.
It's not from Adel.
Yeah, it's from the country of Georgia. Georgian Olympic weightlifter Lasha Talakads, who is the 2016 Olympic gold medalist in weightlifting, just posted the heaviest snatch ever recorded. For those of you who don't know what a snatch is, there's a barbell on the ground with weight on it. You grab it and you rip it overhead. No stop. You're taking weight, throwing it over your head and catching it. No stop. At 225 kilograms. And for us here in the United States, that is 496 pounds. Yes. This dude just ripped 500 pounds off the ground and caught it. All right. He then went on, same day, to clean and jerk 270 kilos, which is equivalent to 595 pounds. So here's the question I pose to you guys. If Ben, Kevin, and BJ all stood next to a barbell that had 496 pounds on it, and it's a long barbell, so you guys can all get your hands on it.
Yeah.
Could you guys even get that overhead?
We have to be very coordinated in our attempt.
So BJ's good for
one of
maybe
us is going to have our quadriceps and hamstrings explode.
BJ's maybe good for 75 pounds, so you guys still have 420 pounds to deal with.
I'm gonna say no. That's not happening. I'm gonna say no for this reason. Number one, Christian. Okay, Christian, you are the guy that works out every day. You know, at the station. It's not so much that you've gotten so much stronger over that time. How much better is your technique? Like how much at what the point that you realize it's technique first, it's strength second. Well, me, Kevin, and BJ will have zero of that. It will be no technique, which means it's going to be.
You have to do it all at the same time, Ben. So that's that's.
Okay. I'm not even saying you have to snatch it. You can get up to your shoulders and then try to press it overhead.
It's not. This is the
my
thing.
Shoulders and Ben's shoulders are on 2 different planes.
Okay, BJ is
on
going to be
platforms.
It's gonna be bad, Christian. I'm gonna tell you why. If 2 people like yourself who are coordinated, doing it every day, it's still gonna be a stretch because it's not something.
Well, no, you would need 3 of me to do it. Like if you took 3 of me, that's what it would take to do it.
3 of you in good shape, working out every day. You're gonna take 3 men with children, bills, taxes, and a lot of tendonitis.
Thank you very much.
I'm not saying you don't pay the tax. I'm just saying you ain't got the kids. Kids. That's all you need. No, it's not gonna happen because as soon as we start going up, as soon as somebody feels it leaving, they're dropping it. So no, I'm not doing that.
All right.
Who's the first? I think the better question would be who's the first one to go? I don't have.
You do the thing where you grab the bar and you get it like 2 inches off the ground. You go nope. You just like drop it. Like
Yep, I don't have it.
All right, second question. Can everyone currently on the show lift 595 pounds, which is what he pulled up on a clean and jerk? Just get it up to your chest.
No,
nope. Get it to your chest. 600 pounds.
No, because once again,
it's 200 pounds a person.
Well, it's like this. It's like moving. All right, you ever lifted something heavy? You coordinate with the guy on the other side. All right, on 1, 2, 3, and he goes, "Wait a minute, no, because I'm
my fingers."
And Christian, once again,
Cody and me moving.
This is not about strength is secondary. Technique is primary. This is about technique. Kevin said it. Hamstrings, quads. They gon'
back.
It's bad. I mean, it's like and Christian, ain't nothing worse than getting ready to pull it and nothing happens. Like you trying to pull up and you just that your back is just out, not doing it because
In your prime, what was your heaviest clean?
My heaviest clean in my prime was I might have did 3 something. I might have did 3 something in my prime.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, you're about 260 pounds at your
But
playing base at the University of-
what happens is too, though, Christian. Once again, that's when I forget how strong I was explosive. I can like pull my hips through to get it up. So it's our momentum.
Kevin, that's just 300 pounds. If you have prime Ben, that's just 300 pounds you and BJ have to split.
Really? We're splitting that? You
Yeah,
think we're splitting that?
You guys can't get 150 up? I think you can,
No,
Kev.
I know I could.
I want to see Kevin clean 150 pounds, Cody.
It's gonna be beautiful.
Off the ground, right?
That's getting it to your chest.
I thought that.
You're thinking of a deadlift.
I thought you were talking about the.
You're thinking of a
The
deadlift.
jerk was to get it here.
No, the jerk's the guy in the purple shirt sitting over there. At the,
I mean,
end
that
of the
may
desk.
be the case.
So, moral of the story, we're not getting any of that up.
It's not. No. I mean, because listen, Kevin showed me when it comes to the 5K, you got to know when to sit your behind down. Like, don't even attempt it. Because once you attempt it and it goes bad, and then you miss 2 weeks because you in the hospital, and you like, I told him.
I learned my lesson with the 40-yard dash when everybody's like, "Hey,
Was
let's
it a
go run
40-yard
it,"
dash,
and
Kevin?
then nobody wanted to.
Was it a 40-yard dash or a 33.5-yard dash?
That one. What about the run for redemption the next week?
I wasn't there for that.
We forget about that. No,
The
it's
Run
fine.
for Redemption.
Yeah,
It's amazing. That sounds like a Disney Channel straight to DVD
really is.
movie. All right, take 2. How many of the first
No credit
round
for that, by the way.
quarterbacks? How many of the first round quarterbacks go on to quote live up to the hype?
I'll say 1 because that's the numbers would tell you that. Look at the top court: Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning, RG3, Andrew Luck. I mean, it's a live up to the hype. Might even be like how many of them just flat make it. I say even out of this group, which people are really high on, I will say 1. 1.
I'm not even when I'm saying little to the hype, I'm not talking about Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence, because you go number 1, number 2, those unrealistic expectations. Because now you're talking about being the face of the league, the face of the franchise, being one of the leading reasons why the NFL is trending upward. With all kind of. For me, I could say 2. Mac Jones, if he does indeed go to San Francisco, got a chance to be really good. And I just think the disrespect of Justin Fields, no matter where he goes, this young man is going to be a good player. So for me, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, I think got a shot to really live up to the hype, because like I said, when you start talking about hype and these unrealistic expectations we place on these players, if the barometer to live up to the number 1 overall pick is Peyton Manning, good luck with that, Trevor Lawrence. Good luck with that. And then, I mean, you're talking about a guy like Zach Wilson. I mean, what? He got to be in the league in 10 years starting? Because you can't just be in the league and not be starting. So I just think that for me, the top 2 picks, no, but, Mac Jones, and then you talking about Justin Fields, they got a shot to definitely live up to it.
All right, take 3, because this is a personal one for me. How ready are you guys for the draft to just be over? I know it provides content for the shows and it really helps all the conversations, but I mean, we're to the point now that people are mocking Justin Fields 32nd overall, right? We're at the point where we're talking about Kellen Mond's a better quarterback than Justin Fields and Trey Lance. It's getting absurd at this point. I've said we're reaching critical mass where there's just nothing left to talk about in the draft. How ready are you for the draft to just be over?
I'm not. You
love this.
No, I do. Because again, I can understand when somebody's just saying something to say it. Like, hey, Justin Fields is going to go 32. Oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. I mean, yeah, you're trying to say something new that hadn't already been said 40 times. But no, the lead up to the draft is what makes this event what it is. Because if it was just, hey, we're not going to talk about it, and then in May or April, we're going to draft.
I'm not saying
but the actual event, the actual event itself, I enjoy. I look at drafts and to me they are fun. And I look at it in a different way than recruiting. Like recruiting to me is you are going after a young man, and your whole day, if you're a recruitnik, is tied up in what a 17 or 18-year-old kid thinks about what he would like to do. There's no predicting that. So on that level, I'm like, look, whoever that wants to go to Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Auburn, that's where they want to go. Great. I mean, But the draft, you get to pick somebody, and you get to say, we want you to come here and play, and you can determine the kind of the course of your franchise that way. It's to me eminently interesting to see how it plays out, especially when it's 2021. Man, everybody's an expert. Oh, we got Trevor. I mean, I guarantee you, at 8:05, Roger Goodell will be like, with the first pick, the Jags select Trevor Lawrence, and at 8:06, there will be a clown on Twitter going, dude is going to be a bust. Like, everybody's got opinions, right? I mean, everybody has got opinions on the draft, and you get to those picks where it's like, oh, the obvious choice is this, and they go somewhere else. I love the draft. I love the draft, and again, I could talk about it. Now, do I love it as much as Mel Kiper Jr.? No, probably not, but I do.
I think Mel Kiper Jr. is even ready to get this thing
No, he's not.
with.
I mean, this is Christmas Day for Mel Kiper Jr. Like, this whole next 3 days is like, have you heard the stories? Like, they said he doesn't go to the bathroom, like, while the draft's going on. I'm like he goes like 7 to midnight. He's there doing draft coverage, no breaks.
But he said he controls his fluid intake.
Well, I mean, you have to, but I'm like, how can you just now he's like getting older, you get older, sometimes you got to go a little more, man. It's like how do you control that? Anyways, I don't know how we got off to the bathroom habits of Mel Kiper on the show, but no, I love draft. I'm not ready for it to be over.
No, I love the draft as well, and the reason why I do love the draft. No, Christian, listen.
If you love it, why would you want it to be over?
I'm gonna tell you why I'm not. I'm gonna
lead up.
No, I'm gonna tell you why I'm not ready for it to be over, because it's the thing, Christian. We tied into this thing in so many ways, from local ties to guys coming from the teams you coming from. Franchises showing why they will never ever come out of the dark ages because of how they draft. Us acting like as much as we know, we don't know a whole lot, because they're gonna be like, they got who? I was at the draft in 2019 when the Raiders selected Cleveland Farrell, number 4 overall. I'm like, what? And Christian, I'm like you when it comes to Justin Fields. I really want to see where Justin Fields is going to go, because this is ridiculous.
I was gonna say, I guess a better way of phrasing the question would have been, are you ready for the draft to just get here already? Because that's kind of where I'm at.
Oh, well,
I can't see mock draft 19.2 again. I can't.
I mean, because now anybody with a significant platform does mock drafts. It's mock draft 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 2.5, 3.7. But I'm looking forward to Cody Queen doing a mock draft after the actual draft.
Look, Cody's doing a 6-round mock draft right now. Why not 7, Cody? Why not 7?
Oh my God. You know why they do 12 drafts before they do the draft? Because they'll say, dude, we don't know what we're doing either. What you mean? We don't even know who's going to go where outside of Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. We don't know where nobody's going to go.
I mean, the fun part about this is I think about all the Cody's a big fantasy football guy. It's no different like the fantasy football draft. It's like, if you don't have the first pick, you could go in with a plan. And then it's over the minute somebody goes out of sequence.
Like, Mel Kiper Jr. is the only person besides professional baseball players who can be right at their job less than 30% of the time and still be considered great.
Well, I mean, but it's hard because you're interpreting what you think other people will do. And once player X is off the board, well, obviously the next team can't get him, and that changes their draft plan. So I think that's why I said at the beginning of the show, Christian, we did last year pandemic draft. We did a little contest between us here on the show to see who could get the most picks right. And I think after about pick 12, none of us were even close, because obviously one wrong pick and it spins the draft.
I got 6, and I think you're right there.
I'm just saying, but after pick 12, nobody had a chance of getting one right, because
you did just a little offshoot.
I mean, maybe.
But I think we both got a couple in the 20s.
But that might have been just pure luck, though. I mean, I don't.
Was it, or were you a prognosticator, Kevin?
Yeah, me and Charlie Campbell, same breath. That's exactly what it needs to be.
2021, Kevin. You can't be sharing breath.
Yes, we'll share the same draft breath. How about that?
That's weird, man.
Yeah, it really is.
Now it really needs to be over.
This whole ridiculous segment is going to come to an end. We will come back. We will chat with Brooks Austin, dogsdaily.com. Could we see 1, 2 Georgia Bulldogs taken tonight? And what will the weekend look like for the Georgia Bulldogs as they head to the draft? We'll also ask him to eval Kyle Pitts and Justin Fields for us ahead of tonight's draft as well. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Thursday draft day. Unbelievable news all out there about the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, and the more that comes out, Aaron Rodgers pretty much like, I ain't coming back. So trade me, don't trade me. I'm not playing in the green and yellow again. And apparently the Raiders, Broncos, 49ers on a short list there for Aaron Rodgers. We'll get to more of that coming up a little bit later on the show, as that obviously turns draft day into pandemonium. But joining us here from Dogs Daily on SI.com, could be a good night for Georgia Bulldogs. Good weekend for Georgia Bulldogs in the draft. Brooks Austin joins us here on the show. Brooks, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Aaron Rodgers is why we can't have nice things, man. Just ruining draft night for everybody. Now everyone's going to be talking about A-Rod. No, I'm just kidding. I'm having a good day, guys. Hope you guys are as well.
I was going to say, is it ruining it or is it just making it better? I mean, the more intrigue.
I mean, ratings just boosted for sure. So if that's what you're going for, 100% things just got better for all involved today.
Well, first round, Brooks, what are we looking at here for the Georgia Bulldogs? I know, mock drafts are a dime a dozen out there, and we've seen maybe Eric Stokes, an Azeez Ojulari. Do you expect to hear a Georgia Bulldog called by Roger Goodell tonight?
Yeah, I think there's only one, almost guarantee, as close as a guarantee at this point, or in the draft process, as when it comes to the first round for Georgia, and that is Azeez Ojulari, the outside linebacker. 9.5 sacks this past year, really did himself a real favor finishing as strong as he did, especially in that Cincinnati game. And then as far as Tyson Campbell and Eric Stokes go, there are probably some teams every once in a while that have, or throughout the league, maybe 3 or 4 of them that have a first-round grade on both Tyson and Eric Stokes. But it's all just going to be, to me, about whether or not and when that run on corners go. I think it's a really top-heavy cornerback draft class. So if a team in that 28 to 32 range feels like, hey, we've got to have a quality corner, and we're not sure if he's going to be available at the bottom of that second round when we're available up again to pick, then yeah, maybe they take a stab at a guy like Tyson Campbell or even Eric Stokes. I think if you had to pick one of those 2 corners that's most likely to go into the first round tonight, I think it is going to be Tyson Campbell, just because of the way the NFL evaluates, physical profiles and athletic profiles. And Tyson definitely checks all of those boxes. 6'2", nearing 200 pounds, and is a verified 4.3, track superstar back in high school. And he's always had the pedigree to be an NFL corner. So that would be the name I'd be looking for in that bottom half of that first round. And then maybe Eric Stokes sneaks in there, but I don't quite expect it to happen tonight. I think 18 to the Miami Dolphins is that real first, hey, be on an alert lookout for a name like Azeez Ojulari to come off the board. And then, that's middle to late first round. So it'll be kind of boring for Georgia fans until that back end of that first round. You're not going to see a top 10 pick like you did last year in Andrew Thomas.
And Brooks, even sticking with a guy like Azeez Ojulari, I mean, when you say 9.5 sacks in the SEC with a guy who's, he's not the biggest guy, he has a tremendous first step. I mean, compared to a guy like, Von Miller, when you're talking about similar size and build and potential skill set, what does his ability to translate to the next level, and how big of a player could he end up becoming, especially with the type of talent he showed last year?
Yeah, I think Azeez does one thing that gets you paid really, really well in the NFL, and that's get after the quarterback. You mentioned it. It's that first initial step. I call it burst and bend, right? He's got that initial step, that initial burst off the line of scrimmage, and he's probably got the best ability to bend among edge rushers in this class. The only problem with Azeez right now is, he's just under 6'3", just under 250 pounds, and guys, that kind of limits him in terms of the schemes that he can ultimately play in the NFL. The good news for him, he's not a 4-3 defensive end or what is nowadays a 4-2-5 defensive end, but most of the NFL has now converted to a more, hybrid 3-4, 4-2-5 kind of crossover defense like the one that Georgia plays in the SEC nowadays. So his ability to get after the quarterback and really bend the edge, and he's got great hand fighting skills, Ben. Those abilities are going to what's going to make him ultimately a first round draft pick, I believe, and going to make him a successful story in the NFL because he can get after the quarterback. And I think one thing that the NFL's probably found out about him as they've further gotten into the evaluation on him, he actually is a really, really good run defender. I mean, he's played traditional defensive end roles for Georgia on early downs for the last 2 years, and he's more than held his own against some of these big powerhouse offensive line programs in the SEC. So I think he's going to be super successful. I wouldn't go as far as to say he's Von Miller, but more of like a Yannick Ngakoue would be more of the comparison that I would give for him, just moving forward into that NFL rank.
Brooks, you look at a guy from our area in Richard LeCount who, depending if you go way back in the process, was listed as maybe a first rounder. Now you've seen maybe he might be a last day of the draft type pick. Where do you think he ends up, and why do you think maybe he's fallen down the draft as much as he has?
So I think the NFL always had questions about Richard's physical ceiling. I mean, they knew he was a little bit undersized for a safety. They knew he didn't really have explosive numbers, but I don't think they expected to come to Georgia's pro day and see, just under 5'11", just under 190 pounds, and then see a 4.8 and a 40. I'll be honest with you guys, like in the history of the NFL, those measurables at the safety position, they're not even day 3 picks. They're not draftable. Those are not threshold numbers that you can meet to play in the NFL and be drafted, have draft capital invested in you. It just doesn't happen. History tells us that it doesn't happen. However, there isn't very much history for a guy that's had tape like him and had a career like him in college at a program like Georgia that goes undrafted. It doesn't happen. So I do think someone's going to take a stab at him, but man, that pro day really, really hurt him. And again, it wasn't ever going to be, him coming out there running 4.38 at 6'1", 205 pounds. Like that wasn't the projection. Everyone knew it wasn't going to be that impressive, but I don't think anybody expected to see 4.8. I don't think that was anything on anyone's board as a possibility for Richard LeCount. And you could say it was the crash, and you can say it was the time off or whatever. It was still a measurable point and a data point that the NFL is looking at. And NFL scouts and GMs, man, they're going to stay away from investing capital, extremely high capital, into a player like that with measurable points like that. However, if he is a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, whatever he is, all he's got to do is get into camp and play like he did over the last 4 years at Georgia, and he'll most likely make a roster. I still feel, strongly about that. And however far he goes beyond that, it's kind of up to Richard in terms of, how much can he develop? Can he become a deep center field safety? Because right now, the NFL says, okay, this is a box safety. We don't believe he can play single high safety. He's going to have to play in and around the box. Oh, and by the way, he's going to be the smallest box safety in the NFL if that's what he ultimately ends up playing. So the chips aren't really stacked up for Richard right now, but he is a football player, and if he gets into camp, he will remain the great football player that he is, despite not having the great data points for an elite football player.
Brooks, every year in the draft, we have a guy that I just don't understand why he's slipping. I don't understand where the reports are coming out, all these unnamed sources. A guy that's no longer at Georgia, but a guy you definitely know a lot about, and that's Justin Fields. I mean, when you talk about the physical attributes, I mean, he has it all. You talk about a guy that left Georgia, went on to still do great things at Ohio State. Why? What do you see when you see him on tape, and why do you think all these, reports keep coming out to try to justify the fact that he's probably going to end up slipping in the draft?
To me, it's clear as day, Ben. I mean, you got a team like Carolina at 9, you got a team like New England at 15 that are just crossing their fingers, hoping and praying that somehow Justin Fields gets to them. So what do? You start leaking out. Well, whatever NFL reporter calls you, like, I don't know, man. I got some serious questions about character concerns. What are you talking about, man? He was a 4.0 student in high school. He's been nothing but team captains everywhere he's gone. His teammates love him. Well, I don't know, man. Unknown sources. I'm just hearing bad things in hopes that he ends up falling. And I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they bite on this bait that's been thrown out in the waters around Justin Fields. It just doesn't add up, man. The tape's incredible. The physical profile's incredible. The measurables are insane. The arm talent's insane. Are you going to sit here and really tell me that NFL evaluators are about to pass up on what could be a generational type talent at the quarterback position, all because unknown and unnamed sources are out here talking nonsense about a young man? No, I don't believe that's the case. I believe the case is too many teams that are not in that top 10 or not in that top 5 or not in a position to draft what I believe is the second best quarterback in the NFL draft. I believe those teams are the ones out here with these unnamed sources just trying to get the draft stock to drop just a little bit, to maybe he's an 11th overall pick, or maybe he is the 9th overall pick. That decreases the amount of draft capital you ultimately have to, give up to move up into the NFL draft, into those slots where a guy like Justin Fields should be going, which I still do believe. I think the third overall to the 49ers is a spot that you can hear Justin Fields' names come off the board tonight.
Brooks Austin joining us here, Dogs Daily on SI. Not often we have to we ask you about a Florida Gator, but in this instance, the draft, the Falcons sitting there at 4 talks about Justin Fields and then Kyle Pitts. What do you see when you break tape on Kyle Pitts? And obviously, if Atlanta takes him, what does he bring to the table?
So I actually got to see Kyle work out with Terrence Edwards over in Atlanta this time last year, actually. And the first thing that came to my mind was just smooth, like just so incredibly smooth for an athlete that's that stretched out, because he is. He's 6'6", and I think he had the longest wingspan of any tight end, in the last 10 years or something crazy like that at his pro day. So extremely long, extremely stretched out, extremely tall, yet really, really smooth, like scary smooth as an athlete. So that kind of stood out to me. And then on tape, it's just a mismatch, right? But I think the main thing for me is I saw between, his sophomore tape and his junior tape there at Florida, I saw a considerable effort to actually become somewhat of an end-of-line blocker. Now, you're not drafting Kyle Pitts to be the next Robert Gronkowski in terms of impacting your run game. But depending on what type of offense you run, like Arthur Smith, there's not many sets where Arthur Smith doesn't have his tight end somewhere near the line of scrimmage, or at least somewhat involved in the run game. And if you don't have any willingness to block, you're not going to really survive in the NFL at the tight end position. This young man, at least to me on tape, showed a considerable effort to get better as an end-of-the-line blocker, and he did. He got better from sophomore to junior year. He is not all world, but everything he does outside of the blocking game, it's what you're going to pay him for in the NFL. It's what you're going to invest a potential top 5 pick on, because it is that special. I'm not really buying into he's an immediate all-pro, he's an immediate Hall of Famer. I think that's too much hype to put onto a young prospect like this, but I do think there is the potential for him to be the next Jason Kelsey, who at the tight end position, leads the NFL or fights for the lead in the NFL in terms of receiving yards. That's the type of talent this young man is.
And Brooks, I mean, something we were talking about, in the previous segment, we were talking about how, the draft has gotten so, much crazier over the years. I mean, it used to be 2 days. Now it's 3 days. I mean, pretty soon they're going to have a full week. I mean, every single round has its own day. When the draft comes around, are you just ready for the draft to be over it? Or is it because it's so much hype, you can't wait, you can't wait to get it started?
I enjoy the draft itself. What I don't enjoy is what we just got done talking about. I don't enjoy the unnamed sources. I don't enjoy the bullcrap that comes around, this time of the year, where it feels like certain prospects get their names dragged through the mud, whereas other prospects actually have reasonable questions and they don't get dragged through the mud. I just don't think there's any consistency throughout the process. And I think now, like you're saying, Ben, it has turned into a real, massive media aspect of this, whereas used to it was grade it out, look at the film, take your selections, get them into camp, get going. Whereas now, where we talk about the NFL draft as soon as the season ends, it's nothing but NFL draft talk for months and months and months. And at the point where draft day comes, I'm kind of browbeat on the Justin Fields character questions or character concerns type stories, or the nonsense is what I call it. It's just nonsense. That's all it is. And you guys know me. If you're talking about what his film looks like, I'm eating that all up. But if we're going to sit here and talk about, he got a C on his report card his 8th grade year in middle school. Yeah, keep that nonsense elsewhere. Keep that crap elsewhere. Just give the film guy the film. Everything else, I don't really care about.
Hey, I'm with you, Brooks. We got everybody in the studio fired up with you. Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI.com. Our guest here on 3 and Out. Brooks, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
No doubt, gentlemen. Y'all have a good one.
We'll do Brooks Austin joining us here on 3 and Out. It's going to be a wild night in a lot of draft rooms. Could Aaron Rodgers be on the table out there? And what's going on in that Falcons draft room before that pick? We'll break it down when we return. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's draft night, and we are excited about that here on 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Hit us up on Twitter as well, at Pigskin Radio, at Pigskin Radio. Of course, everyone wants to be a fly on the wall, Christian, in those war rooms.
Yeah.
And you got a scenario.
A little exercise.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the scenario. Flowery Branch is on fire. Terry Fondo, Arthur Smith, it's their first draft. They have the number 4 overall pick. Obviously, a lot of different scenarios. The war room, what you talk about, we have all the different, executives and coaches in there trying to say who they want, right? So it's the 4th pick. They're on the clock. People are losing their minds. They need you to come into the war room, Kevin. And Ben, we'll let Kevin go first, but they need you to come into the war room and settle them down, set them straight. I told you, we need your Independence Day president speech where you rally the troops and you get them to make the correct choice, which is obviously your choice, right? So we're going to go ahead, and Cody's going to play it. We're going to walk through the doors into the war room at Flowery Branch.
Listen, everybody calm down. You're making this too hard. You're making this too hard. Yeah, Justin Fields might be there. Mac Jones. We have a young man who wears number 2 on his shirt. His name is Matt Ryan. And he is not done yet, fellas. There is more good football to be had. But we don't want him throwing to nobody. We want him to throw him to a lot of somebodies. Don't overthink it. Number 2 still can get us there. And there is a young man who's tall. He's lean. He's fast. He can catch balls like Spider-Man. He happens to play tight end. I know it's not sexy, but tight ends make plays. Tight ends make plays. Travis Kelce, heard of him? Kyle Pitts. He's the man at number 4. Don't make it harder than it has to be. Get the tight end, get you a weapon, and let's go win, boys. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. The Falcons scream. That's either going to be me cheering the pick, or that was the Falcons coming to pluck my eyeballs out at the pick. So
I like it. I like the sereneness of it, Kevin. It's my turn now, Christian.
Hold on. We gotta reset the scenario.
Yeah,
You're
so
walking into the draft room.
Kevin, nicely done. First of all,
you.
nicely done. Ben, same scenario.
Got you.
Flowery Branch is on fire. They don't know what to do. Terry Fontenot is just like, he's got that 1,000-yard stare. He doesn't know what to do. Arthur Smith has left the building. He's so worried, and you're on the clock.
You know, I was reading something the other day, and somebody said I seen an alien, and I thought it was a real alien. But then I realized I was on NFL Network. They were talking about Kyle Pitts. Then I go to another network. I'm listening to Marcus Spears. Marcus Spears said people are always talking about if LeBron James played football, how would he look? He would look like Kyle Pitts. I mean, what you gonna do? Trevor Lawrence, right? Knew about him since he was 14. He's going number 1. Zach Wilson, I mean, he's the poster child. He's going number 2. I mean, San Francisco 49ers traded up to get a quarterback. He's going number 3. The best player in the draft, where's number 84? The best player in the draft. They say he's a generational talent. They say he's the best tight end prospect they've ever seen. He has the longest wingspan in any tight end. Listen, third time in life, just make it a no-brainer. Terry Fontenot, you was brought in to get the best player in the draft. Arthur Smith. Arthur, if you don't pick Kyle Pitts, you need to go back to delivering packages. I'm just saying, it's ridiculous. Just don't make this hard. Make the simple choice. The best choice, the only choice is Kyle Pitts. Because at the end of the day, either you will put him on your team to rock with you, or you will watch him beat the brakes off you. I guarantee you, he gonna go inside the division. And you're not gonna be able to beat him. I tell you what, Gronk still making plays. Kelsey still making plays. Zach Ertz still making plays. Darren Waller still making plays. The last time Matty Ice had a tight end.
Pick Ben.
Last time tight end had a
Kyle Pitts.
Pick Kyle Pitts and get the hell out of the way.
Oh my goodness.
We've been like we were almost Minnesota Vikings where we just didn't.
I was. You know what it is though, Christian. You know what it is though. The thing is though, Christian, if you're in that room, you're in the corner. You know, you're doing the only reason why you ain't smoking a cigarette because they say ain't no smoking in here because you stressed.
Oh, I'm still doing it. I'm ignoring the news.
Because Christian, because you know what it is. You saying we about to do it again. What?
How are
They're
you
about to do it again?
Decision in a '90s movie without a cigarette. Like you have to be like pushing your hair back while taking a drag. I mean, it's just it sets the scene.
I mean, it's like what's the guy name that was on there with Moneyball with Brad Pitt? What's his name?
Oh, Cody, what's his name? Not Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill.
Yeah, it's Jonah like Hill. Christian. That's what you're doing, Christian. You're saying, hey man, I went to the scouting department. I said, hey man, who's the best player? They said, what's his name? Kyle Pitts. Hey, I looked around all the mock drafts. Who's the best player? Kyle Pitts. The only reason why Kyle Pitts is not going number one is because he doesn't play quarterback. They're not going to pick a tight end number one overall. But if they're being honest, they should. If they're being honest, because the best player supposed to go number one overall. Trevor Lawrence is a prodigy. We've been waiting on him for the longest. He's like Baby Yoda. We've been waiting on Trevor Lawrence since he was 14 years old. I get it. Zach Wilson, who the hell is that? Let's just be honest. He went to BYU, and he looks like a guy that's going to play with the Jets. No one's going to care. Mac Jones played at Alabama. None of those guys were a better college football player at their position than Kyle Pitts. He is the best player at his position, bar none. It doesn't matter who you ask. The fact that Marcus Spears and Ryan Clark, these guys went to LSU, it is killing them. They got to talk about that Gator like that, but they got to because he's that good. So make the right decision. Make the only decision. My goodness, close your eyes and point at him.
That's
the boy ran a 4.45 and 6'6", 245. That's called being a mutant. That's called being an alien. That's called being I put in some coordinates. I said 6'6", 245. You know what I'm saying? 4.45, the creative player, and Kyle Pitts popped up.
Yep. Hey, it's going to be. Hey, we'll see what the Falcons do. They may not listen to either one of us, which they should.
Oh yeah, because it makes sense, Kevin. They're not going to listen.
Wait and see. Hey, with all the Aaron Rodgers stuff floating around, who knows what's going to happen tonight in the draft. We'll come back with more 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here with you on this Thursday. Boy, all the lead up to the draft, it gets kicked off here in a couple hours with the first round. Of course, Aaron Rodgers saying he doesn't want to be in Green Bay anymore. Could there be trade possibilities here on draft day? A whole lot of things that could turn this thing on its head, Ben, as we get ready for it tonight. Obviously, I don't think the Falcons will be in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes if there is one. But certainly at number 4, we got a lot to digest. There's still a possibility they could go quarterback. They could go Kyle Pitts. About 30 seconds, man. What's the possibility? What would be the possibility the Falcons do something we're not even thinking of and say take a Penei Sewell to help their offensive line?
It's very possible. It's very possible. Terry Fontenot is a guy that they definitely gave the keys to the franchise. They trust with what he's been able to build in New Orleans. But he's been the one thing he's been conscious about since he's been hired as the new GM of Atlanta is you build your franchise through the quarterback position. He was saying that he thinks that the first 4 picks are going to be quarterbacks, and they just happen to be the 4th pick. I think it is. Kyle Pitts is going to be the best pick and your safest pick, but that just means that you're trying to go for it right now. The quarterback, something that Charlie was saying earlier when you talk about the fact that Kevin, who's to say they're going to be picking in the top 10, top 15 next year to get one of these good quarterbacks in the next 2 upcoming drafts? So you got to think about the future and the present. Aaron Rodgers is definitely taking the fire out of this thing when you talk about the fact that with him saying he want to be in a Bay Area type team, that meaning, the 49ers, the Raiders, and teams of that nature. But, yeah, Terry Fontenot, he's going to be known really, really quickly as being a guy that's going to try to go out there and set his franchise on fire.
Coming up next here on 3 and Out. Sorry, Ben. Great to have you here. Final hour of the show on this Thursday. A lot to get to leading up to the draft. We'll get our mock draft first 10 picks that we think we'll see tonight coming up in just a little bit here on the show. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. At Pigskin Radio. We're also streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. You can also catch us streaming live, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well here on this Thursday afternoon. And joining us here on the show, the head coach of the Savannah State Tigers, Sean Quinn, joins us. Coach, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you guys, man? It's a NFL draft, big night tonight, and a whole lot of fun. I'll enjoy that high drama here, especially with pick 3 tonight. I'll be interested to see who goes.
Absolutely. And Coach, I want to start there at number 1, just because obviously you are a college football coach who goes out on the road recruiting and making the pitch to young men about why they should come to Savannah State. Urban Meyer used to doing that on college football. Now he's the head coach at Jacksonville, and you have to pick guys, and we have to find value, and we have to make sure it works. As a guy who does the recruiting, how do you think he's going to find it a little different tonight, being the head coach in a draft room as opposed to the living room trying to make the recruiting pitch?
Well, they used to have the pick of the litter. Alabama, Clemson, and a couple other guys, and could pick the best of the best. Now it's equal footing. So there's, 150, 200 guys getting drafted, and they'll only get 6 or 8 of those. So, but they're going to get a pretty good one with the first pick. So, as a defensive coach, I know this: a good quarterback makes a good coach. So I'm sure Urban's excited about that. And hey, rumors are Tebow's going to be a tight end, so maybe he can come train with Ben a little bit and get ready to go. So,
I mean, and Coach, I mean, some breaking news. We know that you are Chicago through and through. I know this is not questioning your loyalty, but what happens to the draft when Aaron Rodgers says, "I do not want to be in Green Bay anymore"?
Well, I hope that doesn't happen because he's got, as much as I hate the Packers, I hope for the sake of the sport and the team he stays. But I'm worried about who the Bears got at quarterback right now. I'm not so sure we got the right one there, but he is a fellow Ginger, so I'm going to pull for him. But I don't know. We got to find us a quarterback and some identity for the Bears, so I'm not going to worry about the Packers too much. So that's kind of a 4-letter word in the Quinn house.
Hey, Coach, when you look at the draft process, I know you've had players that have gone through pro days and tried to go through the process. I mean, recruiting is obviously like, hey, here's my tape. Do you like me? Where do you see me fitting at your school? This draft process is, hey, your shoulders don't bend quite the way we would like to. I mean, how as a coach would you evaluate these guys you're getting ready to draft? It seems like sometimes we overthink the room, whereas kind of your job is, man, this tape looks amazing. How would you kind of
go ahead? I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
Look at the way we evaluate guys heading into the draft. Do we overthink it sometimes with these guys?
Well, I heard a great talk by Nick Saban talking about his experience in the NFL, and he said they spend more time finding reasons to not take somebody than to take somebody. So they're always looking for a reason. There's such few picks where this guy's got glaring, deficiencies. We don't need to take him. And, he talks about the ands and the buts. You want a guy to be an and. Great coverage guy, and he's a great teammate. You don't want him to say he plays corner, but he's undersized and is bad in the locker room. So I think the NFL, Ben, can attribute this. They're always looking for a reason not to take you. And I think you get into the end here, it makes for good radio chatter. But, the eye test and then the film test, sometimes the eye test gets ahead of the film test, but the film ought to be your ultimate decision. You have a guy that looks the part, but if he can't play dead in a cowboy movie, you don't need to take him. And we do that with us. We'll see a guy and, man, he looks great, but he gets on the field, he looks lost. And, the tape doesn't lie. That's the part that you got to go with. And usually your gut will tell you, I'm on the right guy. But it's interesting to see. We've had all GMs come in here. We've had all 32 teams. We've got a guy that this weekend's got an opportunity to be a late draft, Mike Johnson. He may be a free agent. And just seeing the scouts come in here and talk with him. And, we've had a guy go every year. So it's been interesting. And I got a streak going out. You guys don't know about 21 years in a row. If Mike goes, I've had a guy I've coached or recruited that's made in the NFL. So hopeful Big Mike will go and give us a chance to get another Tiger in the NFL.
And Coach, I mean, even sticking with what you were saying, I did see what Nick said was talking about the ands and the buts. What happens though? But what happens when the eye test check, the film check, but the buts are something that you as a head coach have never heard of a player that you coach, but there's nothing you can do about it but tell that player, look, we live in a sensationalized world to where, good news and bad news travel the same, because you got certain players to where got a track record that doesn't warrant them getting drafted high, who's going to get drafted high, and you got guys who don't have a track record who seem to be slipping in the draft from this make-believe sensationalized media that people be doing to these young men now and again.
Well, again, it makes for great theater. You remember the deal with the gas mask with the tackle at Ole Miss a couple years ago, and how much that cost him, potentially millions. And it's just the draft's become its own little animal. It's a lot like recruiting is. It becomes its own season in of itself, and then you've got all these folks running around. Hey, his toe was sideways, and at their pro combine, he wore blue instead of orange, so they don't want to take him. So, a lot of that you have to read through the tea leaves. But, it is what it is. I mean, and you see guys all the time that have high value go down the draft board because they've got a bad association or somebody that they've done wrong or done something incorrectly, and it's cost them millions of dollars. And you see some of those guys later on end up being great players on bargain prices because they went in the fifth round instead of the second round. It happens every year, and it's every year I've been involved with this. You see it year in and year out. And I tell our guys, I mean, you make a silly mistake or a bad association, sometimes it can cost you a whole lot of money.
Coach, how would you compare the misinformation around the draft to kind of like negative recruiting you see out on the recruiting trail? Is it similar to some of the stuff is just nonsense that's thrown around?
Yes. The greatest one is it's all over the place, and it's more amplified, obviously, because of all the networks and the draft's a 24/7 deal. But the biggest one you hear in recruiting is, you'll get a better education here, and no one has like a history teacher rating at the prospective schools, and so there's a whole lot of disinformation. And the NFL, there's a lot of smoke screens. I mean, I feel like Kyle Shanahan could work for the State Department on foreign policy. He does not give you an answer, and he's sending you 12 different ways. So who knows who they're going to pick with it? Give him credit. I don't have a clue what they're going to do. For all I know, they're going to take a kicker. So it ought to be interesting. So, but it's really interesting to just see. You can almost see the smoke screen sometimes to see if a guy can drop in the draft or a reason we're not going to take him. And you hear that negative stuff come out there, and it may be a reason somebody passed on a popular pick. The whole thing with Justin Fields with his medical condition. The guy's a great player. Don't let the other things get in the way of not taking him. And it's just interesting to me just how guys can kind of get talked down the draft. Like, how can a guy be a third pick, and if they don't take him, then he's the 18th pick? Like, that's interesting to me that a guy could fall that far if the top 2 or 3 teams don't take him. So it'll be interesting tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun, and there's just not a lot of Ben Troops out there, so it'll be interesting to see if Kyle Pitts get picked quickly. They call him the next coming of Ben Troops, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
No, they are definitely not calling him the next coming of Ben Troop. That man has carved out a legacy of his own. But, Coach, I mean, the thing is this. I mean, as a former player, I wonder why coaches don't reach out to us not to be able to talk to the incoming guys, to be able to say, look, regardless of where I got drafted, I want you guys to know this is what it is compared to what it is. Meaning, I would tell them, just because you get drafted makes you a pro. That doesn't make you a professional. That just makes you a pro. And there is a huge difference in that. And that's something that I always accredit to Aaron Kinney. When I got to the Titans, he said, yeah, man, you're a professional athlete. You are not a professional. And I think that's what these young men need to know the most, because I know you want to get as much money as you can, as many members as you can. Shout out to Hugh Douglas. But talk about that, Coach, being able to let them young men know, listen, it's always going to be about what you do with the opportunity, not necessarily where you go, when you get drafted.
It's exactly right. One of the players I had, Darius Eubanks, said one of the things he was shocked by when he got into the NFL was they didn't care where you came from, what you were drafted, who you played for, as long as you could perform and help the team. And he came in as an undrafted guy and ended up playing several years in the NFL. And that's always stuck with me. You see guys sign with a college and they've made it, and then they sit on their laurels and never become anything in the college level or in the NFL. It's like, just because you're hired by Microsoft doesn't make you Bill Gates, So you got to take something with that opportunity. And, you and I talked here when you visit with our team about, when you take an opportunity, what are you going to do with it? You're going to be somebody they talk about shoulda, coulda, woulda, or somebody who did something with it. And that's how life works. And I tell our players all the time here, hey, man, life's in front of you. You got everything. You're in charge of it. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. And now what are you going to do with the chance you've been given to get education, or for these guys, make millions of dollars and make a living playing a game they love?
Sean Quinn, head coach of the Savannah State Tigers, joining us here on 3 and Out. Coach, before we let you go, I understand you guys have a golf tournament coming up next month to benefit you guys. Tell us a little bit about that and how folks can get involved with it.
Well, we've got a golf tournament coming up on May 28th over at Southbridge. It'll be a great event. It's a chance, TFA Savannah Tiger Football Association, a group of folks trying to support Savannah State football, and all the money and the proceeds will go to the program for equipment, for travel, for a whole bunch of stuff, nutrition, things that we desperately need to give us a chance to be competitive and on level footing with our opponents. And so it's going to be a fun event. It's at the 28th. I think it's at noon on May 28th, right before Memorial Day. So it'll be a good reason to cut out of work a day early before the holiday weekend. We'll play some golf, have a bunch of fun, fellowship. And if they go to tfasavannah.com, they can sign up with foursomes or singles. And we'll see if you can hit it straight and have a bunch of fun out there. And it's always good to get out in the course and have some fellowship. Maybe we can get you guys to come out there and have a little fun, see if you guys can hit it over 300 like a Shambo driver guy, one of you guys there. So it's but you can go to our webpage and we've got it on there, and we'd love to have you, as many folks here locally. It's a great way to support the program and our players. And with everything going on, we're trying to raise money to be able to do things first class and give the kids a great experience while they're here.
Coach, at this point, I don't know what you're asking. I would be hitting so many golf balls into the woods, digging so many trenches in the golf course, they would ask me to leave.
Well, listen, you can buy a mulligan as part of this deal. It's a best ball tournament. So you just bring you a 20 spot with you and we'll let you buy some mulligans. So if you're like me, you're hoping to hit one of every 3 straight. And that's a great day. So I use the old baseball analogy. If I can hit 300 on my drive, then I've had a great day. The other two, I need about 50 balls to get through a round 18 generally and have enough balls to finish the course. So they say if you got a good football coach that's a good golfer, he's not generally don't have a very good football team. So I try to take some pride in that. So, but anyways.
Hey, Coach, always a pleasure having you on. Thanks so much. Enjoy the draft. And again, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Go Tigers.
Appreciate it. Coach Sean Quinn joining us here on 3 and Out. Again, they've got the first annual TFA golf tournament coming up on May the 28th. Check that out. Get involved with them there. We'll come back. We'll hear from Charlie Campbell, Walter football, talking draft, and then Ben and I will mock our top 10 picks heading into tonight. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. in 15, 16, 17, 18, and 20. Led all NFL media in correct picks for the draft in 2017 and 2019. Charlie Campbell joins us here on 3 and Out. Charlie, welcome to the show. How are you? Hey, we're doing fantastic. I guess, can we all be draft experts if we all say Trevor Lawrence is going number 1 tonight? Yeah. So where do we go after the first couple of picks? Does the draft start with San Francisco, or do you feel it kind of turns and starts with the Falcons at 4?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think it really starts at 4 because you know that there'll be quarterbacks taken with the first 3 picks. So then at 4 is where there's a potential division in terms of, well, it could go quarterback, it could go Florida tight end Kyle Pitts, or it could go trade with another team moving into the 4th spot. So that's where really the options open up, is at that 4th pick. The top 3, it's all quarterbacks, and with San Francisco, it's just a mystery as to which one, but you know it'll be that position.
And obviously, I mean, when you talk about the draft really getting started at the 4th overall pick, I mean, we talk about a guy like Terry Fontenot. I mean, obviously he's going to get, a lot of praise if he goes and gets a quarterback, but how intriguing is it going to be for him to go out there and get the tight end out of Florida, Kyle Pitts?
Well, it's a tough decision in terms of the future of the franchise, because you may not be picking in a great spot to land a future successor to Matt Ryan. It's very, feasible that over the next few years, the Falcons win enough with Ryan that they wouldn't be picking high enough to land a top quarterback prospect. So you have to consider that. And at the same time, Kyle Pitts is a generational talent, a freak athlete, a guy that's just an amazing mismatch weapon for the passing-driven NFL. And he could really help rejuvenate Matt Ryan in these later years of his career. And we've seen Drew Brees and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers having their teams, winning championships or competing for them late into their 30s and beyond, in Brady and Brees' case. So there's no necessarily reason why Matt Ryan can't do the same. So with that, I think most likely Atlanta takes Pitts and has Ryan there signed for 2 more years, and then they can make a decision as to whether they're going to keep on going with him or look for the replacement.
We're talking with Charlie Campbell, WalterFootball.com, and Kyle Pitts, I think, would be a great pick there for Atlanta. When you look at it, a lot of folks have talked about depth of the draft. Where is the one position where if you miss on a guy who gets picked ahead of you, it's fine, because there's another guy probably just as good still available later in the first round?
Well, wide receiver is really excellent depth into day 2 and mid rounds. Offensive tackle, there will be a lot of quality offensive tackles that go in the 2nd round, late in the 1st round. So those positions have really good depth this year and rare depth. So really, those positions are the strength of the draft. There's a few others that have some decent depth. Cornerback, late in the 1st, early in the 2nd, has a cluster of players that all are worthy of going in that range. And then there's some running back depth on day 2 as well. So there's a few positions of strength beyond the obvious, really tough, strong ones of wide receiver and offensive tackle.
And Charlie, with the NFL being so offensive driven, how many of the top 32 picks you think gonna end up being offensive guys? I know you got some big time talented defensive players, but it's so offensive driven. Could we see upwards to 20 something guys potentially, coming off the board from offense?
Yeah, I think that's very feasible that you could have an offensively dominated first round, and every draft class is different. So this one, it just happens to be stronger on offense. We've had some drafts in recent years that were better on the defensive side. But this year with the defensive line, typically that's just such a key position in the league that those guys go early and quickly. But this is not a great year on the defensive line. There might be only 2 edge rushers that go in the first round, maybe 1 defensive tackle, so it's very abnormally thin on the defensive front. So that just pushes more offensive guys who graded out higher overall up on teams' boards. So I think it's going to lead to more offense here on the opening night of the draft.
Charlie Campbell, WalterFootball.com. Now, obviously, first round, you're expecting guys to come in and play. Who, in your estimation, is the biggest boom or bust prospect that we could see drafted tonight?
Well, that's a good question. I think Caleb Farley, the cornerback from Virginia Tech, has big boom bust potential. I mean, he's a really good cover corner, big, fast, athletic. The 2019 season of tape was really impressive. So he definitely has boom potential. He would be the top defensive player in this draft probably if it weren't for the injuries, and that's why the bust factor is there. He's just had a really difficult time staying healthy, has had multiple back surgeries, had a serious knee injury. So he's very much so a boom or bust because he has great potential, but if he can't stay healthy, he won't last long in the NFL. So that player in the 20s, for example, could be an absolute steal for someone to get a cornerback with top 10 talent. And if he stays healthy, well, then you just got a great value. But the risk is he just doesn't have the body to hold up in the NFL.
Obviously, when you talk about the third pick in the draft with the 49ers, definitely getting a quarterback. Mac Jones seems to be the guy who's only played 17 games in college, but Trey Lance is a guy who Kyle Shanahan has came out and said he really likes. He's only played 17 games. When you talk about that boom or bust factor, obviously Mac Jones going to get more of a, he going to get more of the benefit of the doubt because he played at Alabama, but both guys not similar in talent, but definitely similar in skill set. Who you think are going to have the chance to have a better career out of two guys who've only had 1 year of production?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, so much of how these guys pan out, is out of their control because we've seen good players get ruined by teams and vice versa. So, I think that it's really going to depend a lot on how well things are developed around them. And that goes as well for Trevor Lawrence and, Zach Wilson as well. I mean, no one would have anticipated that Andrew Luck would have retired early because he had a horrible offensive line for most of his career that led to him taking a beating and just being done with football. So that can happen to any guy really these days. So, but of those two, I personally think Trey Lance has the better skill set, more upside. Teams rave about his character. They say he's really smart, did really well in the Zoom meetings from a football IQ perspective. So if I had to bet on Lance or Jones having the better NFL career, I would bet on Lance. I think Jones might be a little safer. There might be a little more risk with Lance coming from that level of competition and being a one-year wonder. But he definitely has more upside in the skill set than Jones does. Charlie
Campbell, Walter Football, joining us here on 3 and Out. Now, Charlie, obviously we talked about your accuracy in predicting the draft. Is there a team, though, that you're like, come on, man, don't do it to me? Like, the old Al Davis Raiders where it was like, oh, you got to do this. And then the pick comes in and it's somebody that nobody was even thinking about. How do you kind of avoid some of that where you're like, oh, now it's down to Team X. They're going to mess this whole thing up.
That's my, drives me crazy every year. The night before the draft and the days before the draft when I'm doing my final mocks, because one team can set off a domino effect that just ruins it all. So that really gives me a lot of stress that I'm pondering over in my head constantly. And that team often can be the Patriots. They can always do something just completely out of the norm. So, this year they're kind of sitting right in the middle of the first round, which makes them even tougher because they're in a spot where you could move up, you could move down, you could take a real shocking player at that position. They could go for a quarterback. I mean, there's so many possibilities. So that's really the kind of the I find that the toughest team to project year in and year out is New England.
So, Charlie, I mean, when it's all said and done, what is the best remedy when it comes to drafting players? Do you draft for need, or do you draft the best player available?
Well, it really comes to where the two meet, in my opinion, because it's a team sport and you have to build a team. So, for example, there's just certain positions if you've really invested in, you can't go back to that well if you've already, devoted a few first-round picks at that spot, and you can't neglect the other positions on your team. So I think, for example, a team might go into the draft with, say, 2 or 3 needs on the roster, and then you just see who's the best player that is available at one of those spots. Like, well, let's use the Raiders, for example, picking at 17. They need defensive line help, they need linebacker help, and they badly need a right tackle. So when it gets to 17 tonight, I think they look at those positions, they say who's the best player at one of those positions, and they go with that. And then that helps to build the team overall. But obviously, if, say, quarterback is the highest rated player on their board, but Derek Carr is signed cheap and he's played well overall, and they average 30 points a game with him as their quarterback, it doesn't make sense to take a guy that's just going to sit behind him unless you just want to do a complete rebuild. But I know that's not the case. So you really have to consider the state of your roster and try and get the best player that can help you in terms of building the overall team.
Charlie Campbell, Walter Football, our guest here on 3 and Out. We encourage you to go to Walter Football. All the pre-draft prognostications and mock draft is up there as well. Charlie, really appreciate the time and enjoy draft evening.
Thank you. You guys enjoy it. Should be a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Great talking with you again.
Yes, thanks so much. Charlie Campbell joining us here on 3 and Out from Walter Football. Does a great job. Very accurate. I believe he has the Falcons taking the tight end there. And I looked at, he kind of has on his site a conglomeration of all the mock drafts. And I know we talked to D Orlando and a couple of guys around the Falcons who said, look, it's going to be quarterback, but a lot of other mock drafts really think it's going to be Kyle Pitts out there for the pick tonight. So Atlanta, to me, very interesting. Obviously, I think San Francisco could change things somewhat based on the quarterback they take. But to me, still, the Falcons start the draft because you have the top non-quarterback pick if you want it. If you go quarterback, then that falls to the Bengals in the draft. And to me, that could be a very valuable pick here. I know people will kind of not show their cards, but in the last couple of minutes, you're on the clock. We got that, Christian. We'll get to that coming up in the next segment when we come back. So we'll come back. Some breaking news out of the National Football League. Ben, you're going to want to hear this because speaking of changing the draft, this could do it. We'll get to that when we come back. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin and Ben, as we get ready for the draft coming up in about 2 hours and 20 minutes or so. We'll get the Jaguars on the clock. And again, the Aaron Rodgers drama. Who knows if the Packers want to trade? Aaron Rodgers wants to go, but if anything gets worked out here, draft night, that reshapes the draft. But that being said, Ben, we put together our top 10 in the draft, the way we think it will go. I'll let you go first, and we'll let it play out and see who has the most picks right. I think Christian and Cody both did theirs, and we'll come in tomorrow and see who got the most correct picks in the first round. But for purposes of the show, I'm going to take all day to get to 32. Obviously, we'll give our top 10 and how you think this thing's going to play out.
Obviously, I mean, at the top, Kevin, I think it's going to go chalk. When you talk about Trevor Lawrence going to be number 1 overall pick, I think that's in stone. Zach Wilson's going to be the number 2 overall pick out of BYU. I think that's in stone. I do think, while everybody's saying Justin Fields is going to go to number 3 overall, I don't see it happening. I see it being Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is going to go number 3. To the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this is where it's going to get a little shaky for me, but I'm going to stick with it. I mean, I give the Orlando Ledbetter a lot of credit, as far as like him being around the Falcons every single day. He said, Terry Fontenot said, it's going to be a quarterback, but I don't think it's going to be Justin Fields. I think it's going to be Trey Lance. I think they're going to go with Trey Lance. Terry Fontenot really likes Trey Lance. I got him going number 4. Now you get to number 5. Cincinnati has Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow was on IR last year because he has nobody blocking for him. So I think Penei Sewell will come off the board at number 5 to the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 6, the Dolphins. I mean, Tua gonna need weapons, and a weapon that I know he's gonna love to have is Jamar Chase. I was thinking going Kyle Pitts there, but I think they're gonna go on the outside. Combine him with Devontae Parker because I think Gesicki is a good enough tight end for him. Then you get down to number 7, the Broncos. I know the Broncos, got Drew Lock. I know the Broncos.
The Lions.
Oh, that's what we got. Number 7.
The Broncos.
Huh? They traded
the Lions. 9 is the Broncos.
Oh, okay. Oh, which is even better? When at number 7, the Lions, they're gonna need a quarterback, even though they got Jared Goff. I think Justin Fields comes off the board. I think that he's going to be – because in my opinion, the guy's too good of a player, man. And the whole thing about it is everybody trying to talk about him coming out saying he got epilepsy, making up all this stuff about his character. Get out of here with that nonsense. Give me Justin Fields. Then you get to the Panthers. Like I told Terry Fontenot in my rant, if you don't get the best player in the draft, he's going to go in your division and he's going to beat the brakes off you, just like Cam Newton did. Well, this time, you're going to give me Cam Newton at the tight end position because he got a type. Kyle Pitts will be coming off the board, the Carolina Panthers. So now, you're talking about the fact that you're going to be able to have new quarterback, new tight end. They're going to be able to go out there and make a lot of things happen. So, yes, I think Sam Darnold deserves something to look forward to. So, give me Kyle Pitts. Then you got Rashad Slater. I think he's going to be the first offensive tackle coming off the board. I think he provides a lot of depth coming out of Northwestern, and I think he's going to be my number 9. And number 10, I know there have not been a lot of defensive guys coming out. I know it's about Patrick Surtain, and you heard Christian Barmore. For me, I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to snatch up J.C. Horn, cornerback out of USC. That's the USC Gamecocks, not the Trojans, by the way. So to go back through my list, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Penei Sewell, Jamar Chase, Justin Fields, Kyle Pitts, Rashawn Slater, and J.C. Horn.
Yeah, hey, we're not far off on a lot of these. Actually, I think we're all getting at least 2 right. With Trevor Lawrence going to Jacksonville and Zach Wilson going to the Jets. That's pretty much all but confirmed, other than Roger Goodell reading the names off the card there this evening. Number 3. I don't feel confident. Obviously, you're getting down to the draft, and now you're getting all the 49ers. Could they trade with the Packers? Could it be Trey Lance? Could it be Mac Jones? Like Shanahan's like, oh, we kind of like Trey Lance there too. Could it be Justin Fields? I settled on Mac Jones, and I'll just hope that I'm right there with Mac Jones at number 3. Number 4, I know everybody wants the Falcons to take quarterback, but you have Matt Ryan. You're paying him, and he's still got football left. It's not like Matt Ryan's got his arm dangling by a thread, and you're like, we're going to try to ease one more season out of him. No, I think he's got years left. Go get him some help. It could Could be a shock if they went offensive line, but nobody's saying that. I say Kyle Pitts going to Atlanta, and you could have one of the most dynamic offenses because you could still get running back later in this draft and still be very, very good. I say Kyle Pitts to Atlanta. Number 5, saw some Jamar Chase mock drafts here for the Bengals. I think, again, don't overthink it. Your quarterback was annihilated last year. It's not because Joe Burrow was bad. It's because he got the brakes beat off of him every Sunday until he just couldn't take it anymore. Penei Sewell is the pick for me there at number 5 for the Bengals. Dolphins, keep getting weapons. If you like Tua, keep getting him weapons. I think there's a receiver that a lot of people would say they would take. I actually think I go Jamar Chase here. I almost jumped ahead of pick. I'm sorry. I go Jamar Chase here at number 6. My number 7 is Detroit. They got Jared Goff. He said they still need help. Go get him weapons. I think a lot of people would say Jalen Waddle, but it's the Lions, so they're not going to do what you think they're going to do. And so they're going to go get his teammate, Devontae Smith, who is a good player, but obviously the questions are, is he short? Is he small? How does he fit there? But I think Devontae Smith goes to the Lions, which leaves Carolina going, thank you, Lions, and they take Jalen Waddle there at number 8. I help out their wide receiver core. I have Justin Fields then been going number 9 to Denver. And again, you would say, well, didn't they just trade for Teddy Bridgewater? Yeah, exactly. Teddy Bridgewater is the hedge for Justin Fields or your quarterback. And you say, what does that mean? Teddy Bridgewater can play until Justin Fields is ready, or Justin Fields can play, and if it doesn't work out, we have Teddy Bridgewater there to step in and play. And Teddy Bridgewater has been kind of a little bit everywhere, right? I mean, Teddy Bridgewater has been, and I'm losing his name. Who was the quarterback from Virginia Tech that's kind of been everywhere, but he's
Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor been on a bunch of teams, never great with any of them necessarily, never awful with any of them necessarily. He's a solid quarterback. I think that's where Teddy Bridgewater fits in there for Denver. Go get Justin Fields, and if it doesn't work out, you play Teddy Bridgewater or play Teddy Bridgewater until you feel like Justin Fields is ready to play. My number 10 with the Cowboys, Patrick Surtain. I just feel like this is one that's sitting there for them to take. Yeah. And if Jerry Jones doesn't outthink himself and try to be the great, draft poobah, then that's the pick for the Dallas Cowboys, Patrick Surtain. But again, gets very interesting later in the round for me. But for the radio show purposes, we did the top 10. Again, Ben, this is odd because of where the priorities laid. I went through my top 10, and if I'm looking at it correctly, I went to number 10 before I even drafted a defensive player in the draft and still haven't even sniffed a defensive end yet. So, I mean, this is could be a little bit different draft where it's skill, but not that defensive end necessarily, and only one tackle taken in my first 10 picks.
No, the defensive end position isn't what it used to be when we're talking about how many drafts to where they dominated. They're not the headliners this year. You got some guys that's good enough. Quiddy Pay and those guys. I mean, Greg Rousseau and those guys, Jalen Phillips, and you got some guys, but most of them are just that. They call them Jags, just a guy. They got a chance to be good, but they didn't really flash like you want them to. But, Kevin, this is going to be an offensive, heavy-driven type draft. You're talking about maybe 5 quarterbacks, 4 or 5 receivers. Etienne and Najee Harris might go in the first round. You got some good offensive tackles with the headliner being Penei Sewell. At the end of it, I'm going to be counting 2 things. How many offensive guys, how many SEC guys. That's what I'm always looking for. But it still should be a great top 10, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and again, I think if San Francisco does something that nobody expects at 3, and I don't even mean something nobody expects by taking a non-quarterback. I mean, if they take a quarterback other than kind of what we thought, that shakes it up a little bit. And then certainly the Falcons, maybe they go quarterback, but my gut's telling me they don't. I could be wrong, but to me, you have Matt Ryan. Go get some help. You're going to have to pay Matt Ryan because of what he's making. Go get him some more weapons. Kyle Pitts is a guy that Kyle Pitts is one of those guys that could make the next quarterback look good too, right? I mean, it's one of those things where, hey, we don't need a quarterback now, but the next guy we get is going to have Kyle Pitts to throw the ball to, and that, in theory, should help him be good. It help Kyle Pitts and help our quarterback look good when it's like, hey, you don't got to get it on the money necessarily. Get it close. He's got the wingspan. So I think that's a pick that's more than just, hey, we should have got a quarterback. No, this is a guy that helps whoever the next quarterback's going to be as well. We'll come back. More to come here on this Thursday. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. If you missed any portion of today's show, ESPNCoastal.com, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. You can get the archived version, the podcasted version of the show each day. And, of course, we'll be watching the first round tonight with bated breath to see what the Atlanta Falcons has tried to do there at number 4. Pick 1 is certainly no secret. Pick 2 is certainly no secret. It gets interesting there at number 3 in the draft. We'll have the Braves and the Cubs tonight. Ben, the Braves could go 4-0 against the Cubs, something that certain folks who are not on the show today said couldn't be done. And the Braves would be above 500 and in first place in the division with a dub tonight. So already tied for the division, but would be, again, no worse than tied for the division and above 500 with a dub tonight over the Cubs.
Loving the momentum swing, Kevin. Loving the fact that they're getting contributions for guys not named Ronald Acuna Jr. Loving the fact that Ian Anderson has proven himself to potentially be the ace for this Braves team, waiting on Max Fried and Mike Soroka to get back. But it's always better, when you get a dub. 10-0 is hard to do in baseball. It's hard to not score runs. But I think the Cubs, they haven't scored in two games. But looking to get that fourth one to keep that momentum going. And dare I say, Kevin, the bats are waking up. The starting lineup is looking good. And dare I say the bullpen is not making it suspenseful at the end of games. Dare I say the team is coming together. Yeah. It seems like they've kind of hit their – maybe it's the Cubs that are helping with that, but it seems like they've kind of hit their stride as well. They go play Toronto, who's playing good ball this weekend. But, again, this is a team that feels like has finally started to come together. I know BJ's a big – but look at the average. I mean, Austin Riley, just through the last 2 nights, he's now hitting 288. So you went from not respectable to 288, more than respectable, which – again, it takes a lot of good hitting to get back up there. So I look at this Braves lineup, man, and 5 home runs from 5 different guys, including the pitcher. Stop with the DH nonsense. Let the pitchers hit. Let's see the pitchers go out there and hit nukes. That's what we want to see out there in Major League Baseball. So good to see Huascar Noah do it. But, 4 other guys hit homers last night, and none of them, as you said, wore number 13 for the Braves. So that's good stuff to see. We'll recap. We got them written down, Ben. We'll recap how we did in the first round tomorrow on the show. Appreciate Sean Quinn joining us, Charlie Campbell from Walter Football, also Brooks Austin from Dogs Daily on SI for joining us ahead of tonight's draft. So we've got Braves and Cubs coming your way in about 7 minutes. First round draft tonight. I think myself, Christian, and Cody going to be doing a little live online deal through the first 10 picks, and we'll talk about tomorrow, 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network.